All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever had that experience where you and a friend watch the exact same news story, but you walk away with totally different takeaways? It's not always about bias or someone being wrong. There's actually a fascinating science to it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the powerful and often pretty invisible ways the news shapes what we think. So, check this out. There's this famous quote from a political pollster named Frank Luntz. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And man, did he get it. He figured out that the way you present information can be way more important than the information itself. But the thing is, this wasn't some brand new idea he just cooked up. It was actually the culmination of decades of academic research into how we process information. Yeah, Luntz was really just putting a fine point on what researchers had been digging into for years. These academics had been busy creating these models to explain the super subtle but incredibly powerful ways media messages actually work on our brains. Okay, so if we really want to get a handle on this language of power, we need to look at three key ideas. And these are the big ones: agenda setting, priming, and framing. Think of them as the three main tools in the toolbox, whether they're used on purpose or not, that kind of build the reality we perceive through the news. All right, so let's start with the first two: agenda setting and priming. These two really work together. They're like a tag team. And their main job? It's not about changing your mind on, say, the economy. Nope. It's about making you believe that the economy is the most important thing you should even be thinking about right now. So, what exactly is agenda setting? Well, the formal definition is right here. But here's the simple version. The more the media talks about something, the more important we, the audience, think it is. It's really that straightforward. It's a game of repetition and emphasis. The more you see it, the bigger a deal it seems. I love this metaphor. It makes it so clear. Picture the entire world of news as a giant stage. There are hundreds of things happening all at once, right? Now, think of the media as the spotlight operator. They can't light up everything. They have to choose where to point that big, bright spotlight. And whatever they shine that light on, well, that's what we all end up looking at. Let's look at a super simple example. Imagine the news media starts plastering stories about rising unemployment everywhere. On TV, online, in the papers. Suddenly, that's all anyone sees. What happens next? Well, that issue becomes what we call salient. It's just there, at the top of everyone's mind. And pretty soon, you'll see public opinion polls showing that, yep, unemployment is now the #1 problem facing the country. Okay, so that's agenda setting. Now, what about priming? Well, priming is the next logical step. Once the media has set the agenda, once they've made an issue top of mind for you, priming is what happens when that issue becomes the main benchmark you use to evaluate, well, everything, but especially political leaders. Here's another great way to think about it. Imagine the media is handing you a scorecard to grade a president or a prime minister. Because they've been talking about, say, foreign policy all week long, that's the category on the scorecard that suddenly feels like it's worth the most points. It becomes the standard by which you're going to judge them. So you can really see how these two are connected, right? Step 1, agenda setting, shines that big spotlight on the economy. It's now top of mind. Step 2, priming kicks in. And now we're all using the economy as the main ruler to measure whether the government is succeeding or failing. It's a really powerful 1-2 punch. Okay, but wait, it gets even deeper. So far, we've only talked about what issues we think about. But what about how we think about those issues? That's a whole different ballgame. And that, my friends, is where our third and final concept, framing, enters the picture. So, framing isn't about how much an issue is covered, it's about how it's covered. It's all in the details, the specific words they choose, the images they show, the overall story they tell. It's the angle, the spin, the way the whole narrative is put together. The best metaphor for this is literally a picture frame. Imagine you've got a painting. Put it inside a simple, thin black frame, and it looks modern, maybe minimalist. Now take that exact same painting and put it in a huge, ornate gold frame. Suddenly it feels historic, important, classical. The painting itself didn't change at all, but the frame completely changed how you see it. That is exactly what news framing does to an issue. And the power of framing is often just in a single word or phrase. Think about it. A new tax policy? Do you call it tax relief? That sounds great, right? Like lifting a heavy burden? Or how about the estate tax? Call it the death tax, and suddenly it sounds morbid and unfair. You can frame a discussion around financial risks, which sounds analytical and cold, or social consequences, which sounds human and empathetic. The policy is identical, but the frame triggers a totally different response in your brain. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. Agenda setting, priming, framing, they all sound kind of the same, right? It can get confusing. But this next part, this is the key. This is the big aha moment that ties it all together. And the whole difference boils down to just two simple concepts: accessibility versus applicability. Okay, stick with me here because this is so important. Agenda setting and priming, the first two we talked about, they work through a principle called accessibility. All that means is they make a concept like crime super easy for your brain to grab onto. It's right there at the top of your mind. But framing works differently. It works through applicability. It doesn't just put an idea in your head, it creates a link. It suggests that this idea is applicable to that idea, that they're connected. So why on earth does this matter? Well, it all comes down to how long the effect lasts. See, accessibility is fleeting. The media spotlight moves on to a new issue and the old one just kind of fades from your memory. But applicability, that's a whole lot stickier. When a frame convinces you that two things are connected, that belief doesn't just fade away. It can hang around for a really, really long time until you're given a strong reason to break that connection. Look, the point of all of this isn't to make you cynical about the news, not at all. The goal is to give you a more critical eye. It's about being a smarter, more aware consumer of information. Once you understand these tools, it's like you've been given a special lens to see how messages are constructed, and you can navigate this crazy media world a lot more effectively. All right, so let's recap this one last time, nice and simple. Agenda setting tells you what to think about. Priming tells you what criteria to use when you judge it, and framing tells you how to think about it. And that crucial difference, the engine driving it all, is accessibility versus applicability. Is the idea just at the top of your mind, or has a deeper, more lasting connection been built? And so here's the thought I really want to leave you with. Because once you see this stuff, you kind of can't unsee it. The next time you're reading an article or watching a report, just ask yourself that simple question. Is this piece telling me what to think about, or is it trying to tell me how to think? Noticing that difference, well, it just might change everything.